welcome back to the deep dive. So when we talk about scarcity versus abundance, I think the image that usually pops into your head is, well, it's pretty rooted in the physical world.
Oh, for sure. It's a huge bank account or no debt, financial freedom.
Exactly. Or maybe just a bigger house. Abundance, in how we talk about it today, it's almost always measured by what you own.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources we've been swimming through for this deep dive suggest that we've been using completely the wrong ruler for this.
That's the core flip of the script, really. The material argues that there are fundamentally two ways a person can live.
From scarcity or from abundance.
Right. And the way you measure which one you're in has, very little to do with your material wealth or your house or your possessions. It has everything to do with the openness of your heart.
I find that shift so liberating. It immediately takes the pressure off.
The pressure of waiting for things to change on the outside.
Yeah, waiting for the promotion, waiting for the perfect partner, waiting for the debt to clear. It pivots the whole focus to the only thing we actually control.
Our inner state.
Our inner spiritual state.
Mhm.
It turns out the goal isn't to get rich. It's to, be rich in spirit.
That's the precise insight. This whole framework, it's not an economic one at all. It's spiritual.
Okay, so if abundance isn't about the checkbook, what's our mission here? If we're really looking at the heart's capacity, what are we trying to understand about these two ways of being?
Well, our goal is to really unpack these two core postures.
Contraction versus expansion.
Exactly. Inward contraction versus outward expansion. And we need to identify the hidden engine that drives them, which is really the critical roles that fear and courage play in your daily life.
So we're looking at what it means to be emotionally rich, no matter what your bank account looks like.
And how we can actively cultivate that richness.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the posture that keeps us small. If we're defining these states based on the heart, how does the source material define scarcity?
Scarcity, in the spiritual context, it's described as a really subtle, kind of pervasive inward posture. It's defined specifically as the habit of being miserly, not with money, but in giving or receiving love.
Wow.
It's that constant sense that there just isn't enough love or support or goodness to go around, especially for you.
Miserly in love. I mean, that is a phrase that carries some serious weight. When I hear that, I immediately think of stinginess.
Right.
But it's about holding on to emotion.
Absolutely. And think about what that actually looks like. So being miserly and giving love might be a friend shares a huge, exciting win.
Quiet.
And instead of letting pure, unfiltered joy pour out for them, a little bit of envy or comparison creeps in. You hold back that genuine, expansive compliment because you feel a scarcity of success in your own life.
I can see that. Or being miserly and receiving love.
That's the other side of it. Someone offers you genuine help or a heartfelt compliment, and you just deflect it immediately.
You feel awkward or suspicious.
Right, because deep down, you believe you don't really deserve that influx of goodness.
And the core mechanism for all of this has to be fear, doesn't it? I mean, if I'm holding back, it's because I'm scared of being exposed or hurt.
That's it. The mechanism is fear. The source material talks about the whisper of scarcity, which is basically this self-protective mantra.
What does it say?
It says, protect yourself. Don't give too much or you'll be taken advantage of. Don't receive too much because you'll owe something later or it'll just be taken away.
And that voice is driven by fear of being hurt, fear of losing love.
Or just fear of being overwhelmed by it all.
But wait, if scarcity is purely about self-protection, about building emotional armor, why is it so painful? What's the actual consequence of living behind that armor?
Well, that's the great paradox of it all. In trying to keep ourselves safe, we close the doors of the heart.
We shut down.
We might allow love to slip in, but only through these tiny, carefully monitored windows. And we think this shrinking is protective, but the consequence is that it traps us. It keeps us in a state the source calls chronic fear.
Which creates an emotional drought.
An emotional drought that slowly shapes our entire being. We end up creating the very thing we were so afraid of. Isolation and lack.
So in trying to prevent pain, we actually guarantee this deep, persistent sense of lack.
Exactly. No matter how full our bank accounts are, it's the difference between feeling guarded for a moment and feeling genuinely secure.
That emotional drought feeling, that's so relatable. It's like you're trying to pour from an empty cup, but you've locked up the well for years. You're holding on so tightly to what little love you think you have that you actually create a desert inside yourself.
Precisely. And that drought affects every decision you make, your career, your relationships, how you see the future. You're always approaching life from a place of less than.
Okay, let's pivot to the light. That feels very needed after defining that emotional desert. So if scarcity is the heart contracting, what does abundance look like? How do we flip that script?
Abundance in this framework it's fundamentally a spiritual perspective. It's a whole new lens to see your life through.
Yeah.
It's the profound and active willingness to see your life, others, and the world as just, overflowing with the capacity to give and receive love.
So it's not about waiting for things outside of you to deliver happiness. It's more about adopting this deep internal vision that goodness is already there.
It's already there waiting to be accessed. Exactly. It's an active choice of openness, a dynamic posture.
So people who live from abundance, what are they doing differently?
They recognize that love is a continuous flow, and they participate in it. So they do two main things. They allow love and care to pour out freely. That's the generous giving.
And just as importantly,
They welcome its inflow graciously. It's a dynamic, two-way street that requires constant, sometimes risky motion.
that welcoming of inflow can be so hard. I mean, we're often taught to be tough, to reject help, to believe that worthiness only comes from struggle.
It absolutely is. Allowing someone to truly see you or support you can feel like weakness. Which is why the sources are clear that living from abundance requires continuous internal work. It's the gentle, active removal of the inner barriers that restrict love's movement.
You can't just take a wrecking ball to the fortress around your heart.
No, you have to identify what those barriers actually are.
And the sources list 3 specific types. Let's dig into those because this is where it gets practical. What's the first one?
The first barrier is old wounds. These are the past hurts, betrayals, failures that we experienced, and they become predictors for our current behavior.
So if you were hurt in a relationship years ago, that wound tells you that trusting anyone now is just unsafe.
Precisely. The heart contracts to prevent a repeat of that pain, and that old wound just screams, risk equals pain, so you subconsciously limit the flow of love out of self-preservation.
Which ironically guarantees that emotional drought we were talking about.
There it is again.
What about the second barrier, limiting beliefs? That sounds like the mental story we build from those wounds.
It is. It's the internal script we run every day. Limiting beliefs are those narratives like, I'm not smart enough, or I don't deserve this, or if people really knew me, they wouldn't stick around.
And these beliefs ensure that even when abundance shows up, you don't let it in because you don't feel worthy.
That's the mechanism of self-sabotage, isn't it? If you fundamentally believe you're unworthy of happiness, you will subconsciously push away the very things that bring it.
It's scarcity just coded into your identity.
That's exactly right. So the abundant perspective means dismantling those scripts piece by piece.
And the third barrier, rigid defenses. This sounds like the armor itself.
It is. It's the external behavior, the hard shell we build that so often gets mistaken for strength.
Like excessive cynicism.
Or always having to be right, or intellectualizing your feelings instead of actually feeling them.
Or just avoiding difficult conversations because they require vulnerability.
Exactly. These defenses are rigid. They don't allow for flexibility or surprise or, crucially, for new love to flow in without being filtered through suspicion first.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, and maybe a little scary. We said fear is the root of scarcity. So if I start removing those defenses, peeling back the layers of old wounds, doesn't that logically make me more vulnerable? I mean, doesn't fear show up precisely when we choose openness?
That is the essential challenge of living this way, and the source material tackles this question head-on. They affirm that yes, fear can and often will arise when we choose to open our hearts.
So choosing love means acknowledging the risk. Abundance isn't some shield against difficult emotions.
Not at all. Abundance is not the absence of fear. It is the conscious daily choice to let love have the final word.
Wow.
It's recognizing that the pain of potential vulnerability is less damaging than the guaranteed pain of chronic contraction.
That distinction is so powerful. It acknowledges the reality of emotion but insists on a spiritual choice.
And every single time you choose love over suspicion or generosity over being guarded, you are actively moving from fear to trust.
From scarcity to abundance.
It's a repeated act of courage. You are literally expanding your own capacity.
You included a couple of compelling references in your notes that really bring this home, the relationship between love and fear.
I did. One is that famous line from a foundational text which says, "Perfect love casts out fear."
Right.
This isn't just poetic, it's an active principle. The more authentic love is present, the less power fear has to govern your decisions. Love doesn't remove the threat, It removes the tyranny of fear.
That reframes the whole conversation. Love isn't passive, it's an active, fear-dissolving force.
And then there's this powerful insight from the great educator Paulo Freire, who said, "Love is an act of courage, not fear."
I love that.
That one line just completely flips the script on how we see vulnerability. It suggests that choosing to connect, choosing to be generous, choosing to risk feeling deeply, that is the ultimate act of bravery.
That sums it all up. If fear contracts the heart into scarcity, then courage has to be the muscle that enables expansion, drawing us toward abundance.
Precisely. The material contrasts the impact. Courage expands the heart, making space for more flow, while fear contracts it, shrinking our capacity for connection.
So scarcity is that chronic state of contraction.
While abundance is the intentional, ongoing expansion fueled by courage, we realize that fear is the enemy of wholeness, not the protector of our safety.
So what does this all mean for the listener practically? I mean, it's clear this isn't a one-time thing, but a continuous commitment.
It absolutely is. It's a conscious daily decision. We can look at the core choices abundance entails, reinforcing the contrast with that scarcity posture. This is the moment-to-moment decision-making you face all day long.
Okay, let's list them out. When that whisper of scarcity starts up, what's the deliberate choice we make instead?
First, it means choosing openness over self-protection. This means actively lowering those rigid defenses, even when it feels risky.
Being willing to listen without immediately judging.
Or showing your true feelings without immediately censoring them. Yeah.
And second,
It's choosing trust over fear. And that doesn't mean blindly trusting everyone. It means trusting your own capacity to navigate life from an expanded place.
trusting that even if things go wrong, you're strong enough to handle it without shutting down.
Exactly.
And the third one, this goes right back to that painful definition of being miserly in love.
It does. It means choosing generosity over guardedness. Generosity in your time, your spirit, your empathy, your love.
And it's not just about giving freely.
No, it's also about graciously allowing others to be generous toward you without immediately feeling like you have to repay it or deflect it. That acceptance of inflow is often the hardest part.
And the reward for all this daily challenging practice, what is it?
The sources describe the ultimate benefit of letting love lead. When we make these choices, we start to taste what they call the quiet freedom of a life that overflows with care, connection, and wholeness.
It's a state of inner peace that external circumstances can't really shake.
They can't easily disrupt it. You are whole, not because of what you possess, but because of what you willingly release and receive.
That quiet freedom. It sounds like the complete opposite of that chronic fear we defined earlier. It all comes full circle.
It really does.
The deepest form of scarcity, as we've learned today, it isn't about the lack of dollars in your account. It's about the heart's capacity or refusal to give and receive love.
That's the absolute core takeaway. The external world will always fluctuate, but that internal posture, the choice between contraction and expansion, that's something we have absolute control over, starting right now.
And as we close this deep dive, for the learner who wants to take this concept forward, what's the provocative thought we should leave them with? Something to move this from theory into practice.
Okay, so don't think about your bank account today. Think about this. If courage expands the heart and scarcity is defined by that contracting posture of fear, how does the daily commitment to choosing love change the actual physical and emotional shape of your life over the next week? And more specifically, what specific piece of emotional armor, that old wound, that limiting belief, or that rigid defense, will you choose to risk shedding just a little bit today? Because that one small act of risk, that's the moment your practice of abundance truly begins.